Please don't forget to subscribe, because a lot of people that watch my videos don't subscribe apparently, and hit that bell so you stay informed with the latest and greatest videos from this channel. I'm also live every day on twitch.tv/HasanAbi after 11 a.m. Pacific. Christopher Columbus. October 12th is Columbus Day in the United States of America. When asked to describe Christopher Columbus, most people generally say two things. He was a brave explorer who, despite terrible odds, sailed across the Atlantic and proved the earth was round. He was a tireless, courageous hero who discovered the New World. These are the ideas that comprise Columbus's legacy. I'm here to dispel those ideas, and with as much candor as I can muster, introduce a few of my own. In 1491, no one thought the earth was flat. The notion that in pre-Columbian times, everyone thought the earth was flat is a myth conjured up by the 18th century. Misguided historians started parroting this and other misguided historians, which trickled down to school teachers, and the idea stuck. Columbus knew the earth was round. The Queen of Spain knew the earth was round. And pretty much anyone with an education knew the earth was round. The ancient Greeks had proven it 2,000 years before Columbus was even born. Wait, how do they do it? That's just... how do they do it too? They did it in like the simplest way possible. Wasn't it through sundials? Like, not only... yeah, it was through fucking shadows. So not only did they figure out the earth was round, they also kind of nailed how large it was too. Like, by looking at shadows in different points, they were able to mathematically figure out literally how big the earth was and also how round it was. So this idea that like the earth was flat, or that like, I love me some flat earther bullshit, you know, because they by and large are less harmful than all these other like types of conspiracy theories. But these motherfuckers are advocating for a thing that was like owned into oblivion by like the most common sense, by dudes who had no fucking clue how anything worked for the most part. Anyway, so Columbus sails the ocean, glossing over the fact that the natives living in the New World got there 14,000 years before Columbus discovered it. Leif Erikson technically found the New World 500 years before Columbus ever set sail. Although Columbus's arrival did mark the beginning of a new era, semantically speaking, he didn't discover the Americas. I'm not here to argue semantics, however. I'm here to argue for Columbus's true legacy, a legacy that I believe can be defined by detailing what transpired between Columbus and the Lucayan natives who occupy what is currently known as the Bahamas. In 1493, that is, Columbus's initial voyage to the New World was revelatory, but not particularly fruitful. Columbus knew he stumbled onto something big, but he remained myopically focused on gold rather than discovery of new land mass. The myopia was partially fueled by the natives themselves, where they wore gold jewelry that Columbus immediately took note of in his journal, and the source of that gold became his primary objective from then on out. A better trade route to Asia be damned, Columbus wanted cheddar. This set the precedent for the remainder of Columbus's interactions with native peoples. On the 1492 voyage, Columbus described them as healthy, generous, hospitable people. That makes things a little bit worse too, by the way, for the record. Like, he saw them as hospitable and good people, which makes it so much worse. Like, what he did was fucking horrible, but extra horrible on top of like the horribleness of itself, considering that they were nice to him. This set the precedent for the remainder of the Columbus interactions with the native people. When the Santa Maria ship was shipwrecked, the Lucayan natives worked for hours to rescue the ship, saving the crew and cargo. GG's, boys. I'm gonna be honest with you. Shouldn't have done that. When Columbus returned home, he took 25 Lucayan natives with him. Of those 25, 7 survived the voyage. Where there was kindness in the natives, Columbus saw weakness, and he concluded in his 1492 journal entry with this: I could conquer the whole of them with 50 men and govern them as I pleased. As you saw, Tony Soprano's son also read out from Howard Zinn's History of the United States. Upon returning to Spain, Columbus sold the Queen the idea of a new world saturated in wealth and prosperity beyond her wildest dreams. She in turn outfitted him with 17 ships, 1,500 men, and an arsenal of swords, crossbows, and cannons. So Columbus returned to the New World, this time armed to the teeth. Upon his arrival, he demanded that the Lucayan people give his men food and gold and allow them to have sex with their women. When the Lucayans refused, Columbus responded by ordering that their ears and noses be cut off so that the now disfigured offenders could return to the villages and serve as a warning to others. Eventually, the natives rebelled. Columbus saw this as a perfect excuse to go to war, and with the heavily armed troops and advanced weaponry, it wound up being a very short war. The natives were quickly slaughtered, having only spears and rocks and other primitive tools to fight with. There are eyewitness accounts of fallen Lucayan warriors being fed to hunting dogs while they were still alive, screaming and wailing in agony as the dogs feasted on their limbs and entrails. Despite quelling the rebellion, Columbus still didn't have the gold he wanted. Not wanting to return home empty-handed, Columbus rounded up 500 Lucayan natives, chained them below the decks of his ships, and returned them to Spain so they could be sold as slaves, and of those 300 survived the voyage. Another 500 natives were enslaved and kept in the New World. They were forced to feed, care for, and even carry Columbus's men around their backs. This resulted in many Lucayans fleeing the mountains to escape enslavement. Columbus's men took to hunting these refugees down for sport, and after murdering them, using their bodies as dog food. Despite all of these awful shenanigans, Columbus still didn't have enough gold, so he set up a tribute system whereby natives who brought him gold would receive a token to wear around their necks. This token gave them a sort of get out of jail free card for a few months, so they wouldn't be required to produce gold until the token expired. Any native without a token who was caught not meeting their gold quota was punished. The punishment, instead of wearing a token around their neck, Columbus's men, and this part is fucking insane, would cut off the natives' hands and force them to wear those instead. This tribute system allowed Columbus to finally get his gold. His greed mildly satiated, Columbus began rewarding his lieutenants with sex slaves, particularly young girls who had been forced into sexual slavery. In a letter to a friend, Columbus remarked upon how girls between the ages of 9 and 10 could be used as currency. Real libertarian hours right here. 100 castellanos are as easily obtained for a woman as for a farm, and it is very general, and there are plenty of dealers who go about looking for girls. Those from 9 to 10 are now in demand. In addition to smallpox and other diseases which wiped out huge segments of the native population, the sudden influx of forced labor in the New World resulted in a mass imbalance in the ecology and workforce of the native peoples. It's estimated that over the next 50 years, the final death toll from post-Columbian disease and starvation was in the range of 3 to 5 million people. Columbus's gold exports also resulted in the paralysis of the gold economy of the Gold Coast in Africa. This led to the rise of African slaves as the dominant commodity in that region, which inadvertently makes Columbus the father of the transatlantic slave trade. The point I'm trying to drive home is this. Christopher Columbus was awful. He discovered the New World much like a meteorite discovered the dinosaurs. And the good old Chris Columbus, sex slaver, mass murderer, and champion of sociopathic imperialism, has his own federal holiday. This is an honor shared by Abraham Lincoln and Martin Luther King Jr. But Columbus Day is an American tradition. Some ignorant white man from bum-wrecked Nebrahoma. Okay. Columbus Day was established. Nebrahoma. Goddamn. Columbus Day was established in the 1930s by a male-only Catholic organization known as the Knights of Columbus. They wanted a male Catholic role model for the kids to look up to, so they pressured the Roosevelt administration into making it a federal holiday. Not an American tradition, it's a recent mistake. If you look at anyone close enough, you'll always find dirt. In the case of Columbus, I did not simply find dirt, I found a soiled, wretched horror show of a human being. That being said, it's incredibly easy to defile a historical figure. I find it much harder and more rewarding to deify one. History is full of terrible people and terrible things, so instead of casting a shadow where there's already darkness, I'd much prefer to cast the light. Bartholomew de las Casas. Okay, well then he like hypes up Bartholomew de las Casas. Yeah. So kid, fuck Columbus. I'm still alive. When he returned to Spain with 300 enslaved survivors, the Spanish crown told him that he was wilding out and imprisoned him for a short time. Even for his time, Columbus was a radical demon. Yeah, he was considered to be violent even for his own time. Like, at least with the story of our founding fathers in the United States of America, right? There is a counter, like a rebellion against the monarchy, you know what I mean, that you can point to in the formation of the United States. Even then, though, they are still settler colonialists who purged the natives in a similar capacity to Christopher Columbus, following his lead many years later, right? But even then, there's like another thing that you can point to, whereas with Christopher Columbus, you kind of can't. That's the only thing.